this new episode is not gonna be easy. It's late at night, obviously, and the first thing that we have to do is we want to record this properly. And having a hard day, it's always a little bit more difficult. So this being said, we're gonna try to attempt something that we've done in the past. And one of those things that I've done in the past is I used to be a big fan of these feature walls, and the feature walls always excited me just because they were able to provide such depth and different various aesthetic pleasure to the eye, I guess. So on this end we had a small project that looked like something like this. It is an industrial project and we wanted to spice this up a little bit slightly. I've changed some of the names just to be sure, but rest assured we're still going to achieve the same result. The end result, what we wanted to do here is I wanted to use a curtain wall, and basically the curtain wall consists of a fixed distance layout. We're going to have a 2x4 panels, metal panels. However, these metal panels are going to be different depths and they're going to be different colors. So depending on the color, that's the depth they're going to take, but I wanted to randomize this thing a little bit. So what I've done in this case is we've created these panels, and the next step is going to be to add a comment to each one of these curtain panels. Once we have them, I can select all visible in view, and I can just double check to ensure that they all have this front. The idea is I should be able to capture all of them. So everyone that has a front label, which is all these types, I'm going to be able to access them through Dynamo. So once again, we're trying to achieve this down the line, and we're going to try to go through this aspect. My apologies, this is a little bit slow. So let's just open up. Essentially what we needed to do is we don't want to do this manually. I want to randomize. So I've created 3 system panels. They have different material. So I have the green, I have the white, and if I reselect it, I have also the yellow. So I like all of these. Like I said, they have different colors. So we're going to try to randomize this pattern slightly. Don't know what happened. We're going to go backwards a little bit. And I believe this is my fault because I made it to embed. I'm going to have to fix this a little bit, but if this is going to load, it would be even better. Alright, so for some reason it didn't work. So we're going to go backwards a few steps. And like I said, we're going to try to achieve this in this way. And you're going to be able to apply this in different scenarios. You might do a facade, you might do some windows tinting, you might do some solid panels within a curtain wall. And obviously, if we don't create the mullions, we should be able to use the curtain wall as a feature to create a feature wall. So once again, it reminds me of the little wooden blocks that we often see within images. And that was the end goal for me. I wanted to randomize these depths. So obviously, if I did this with wood, I would just change the depth of each one of these mullions, and I would make some smaller, some bigger, and just trying to play around with this. So that being said, we're going to go right into our Dynamo screen. So within our Dynamo screen, the first thing that we're going to do is, obviously, we want to select a bunch of items. So let me just deselect all of this. And I like to work side by side just to double check that I don't have anything. So like I said, we're going to select all elements of categories. And hopefully, like I said, just go through this notion. You can always review this back if you need to review this back. It is recorded, therefore you will have access to it on YouTube. And if you ever feel like I'm going a little bit too fast, well, rest assured you can always rewind. If not, just ask me the question in the comments below, and I'll make sure to answer as quick as possible. So this being said, we're going to select all elements of categories, and the category is going to be not the curtain wall, but we're going to select the curtain panels. So if I go like this, we can kind of see that I have a bunch of curtain panels. Obviously within my project I have a lot more walls, I have a lot more curtain walls, so therefore we have a little bit more. But this is why we added that string. So what we want to do is we want to get the parameters. So essentially I want to flag everyone that has the comment front. So that being said, we're going to create a string object and we're going to call this front. So these are all my front panel within that curtain wall. So what I want to do is I want to get another string. I'm just preparing this for comments. And essentially I'm going to get the parameter. To get the parameter by value, I'm going to go within Revit element. I'm going to go with an element and I should be able to get parameter value. I'm going to get parameter by value. Can I get parameter value by name? All right. So once again, we're just going to do a couple of things. And I'm going to select my elements. And I want to be able to get my parameters by name. Remember, we do have some components that have front and we have some that are empty. So once again, this is just defining that we have a little bit more panels than what we want to select. I don't want to select all the panels within my project. Rather, I want to just select the ones that have front in front of it. So right now what we're going to do next is we're going to look for strings. And we're going to go not within elements. Rather, we're going to go within, if I'm correct, it's going to be not here. List, inspect, I believe. No, actually we have the string. That's what I was looking for. So we want to inspect the string and we want to see if that string contains a specific character. Now these results that we see, the values, the parameters, comments is a string type. So when we see things in orange, it signifies that it's a string type. So obviously this is what we're going to see. And we're going to search for. Ignore case I believe is false by default. We're just going to try to see. And obviously the idea is when we get to 18 it should be false. So good, this is going to be our Boolean mask. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to create list Boolean bool mask. So basically we're going to filter the result based on this. So once again we have all these elements. I want to filter them out. And obviously I'm going to get two lists. The first list is going to be the true ones and the second list is going to be my false one. Since we have a lot less false ones, it does make sense that we need to modify the inside list. So obviously now we want to change these automatically, but we want to randomize them a little bit. So once again, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to just set a couple of things that I'm going to prepare for later. I'm going to count things within my list. So once again, I just want to make sure that I know what exactly is the number that I have of items. I'm going to use this later to create a list with randomized patterns. So obviously this is going to be something very practical. I do have my three family types. The family types is the three different colors. So within Revit, within selection, I believe, we're going to go, and I'm doing this all by heart, so bear with me a little bit. So family type, there we go. I'm going to be able to find specifically my three things. So I believe I have system. I remember well, this is in system panels. Family type, and this is called system panel. Yes. So we have system panel, and I'm just going to copy paste this and hopefully it's going to retain them. Oh, wrong button. So once again, I want to select the white and I'm going to select the yellow. So once again, we have these three colors. This is great. So now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to create a list. And my list will contain these three items. So right now, this is great. We have, if I run this, we are gonna see that I have these. However, now we don't have enough. So what I wanna do is, I wanna cycle this for this amount of time. So in order to ensure that I have the same amount of things. So what we're gonna do is, we have a special node within list. We're gonna modify it and we're gonna cycle it. It might not be here, but let me organize it potentially. It's not an organized. Generate, I guess. So we're gonna create a new list by concatenating copies of a given list. So we're gonna take this list. However, we need to concatenate this for x divided by 3, and the reason why we're going to do x divided by 3 is because we want to get a proper answer. Obviously, this is the amount of time that we need to do it. It is giving me an odd number, so we're going to see what's going to happen down the line. It should be providing me with one less, one more. We need to match this number, obviously, because we have 482. This is not divisible by 3 as a round number. We have one extra. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go and I'm going to drop one item. And I have a node that's called rest of item, removes the first item from the given list. You know, down the line, we just want to match this number. And now we can see that we have 482 and here we had 482. So it is going to be matching. So the last thing that we're going to do is we're going to shuffle our list. We're going to go shuffle our list in a different way. And so obviously, you know, this is all going white, yellow, green, white, yellow, green, white, yellow, green. I want to shuffle this a little bit more phonetically. So now we can kind of see that it's going yellow, yellow, green, 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 yellow, yellow, green, 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 green. It's providing us with all these things. So great. We have a selection of all elements of category. We're extracting the value of these parameters, which is in the comment section. We're just looking for strings where they have front as a value, and based on that, the true and false, this is going to be used to filter our results. And by getting the front panels only, we're going to be able to count the list, and we're going to be able to create a new list with the same amount of items, for which we're going to be used to set up this new template. So now that this is said, we're just going to put this onto the side. I want to be able to visualize both, and potentially I'm going to just create a little bit more value on my screen. Luckily for me, I do have a little bit of space, and I want it the other way around. Can I flip these? Oh, obviously I can't. So right, I think this is going to be our best bet. So once again, I wanted to kind of visualize both side by side. I'm just going to reduce some of these things for the sake of visualizing this thing. So once again, we want to visualize this as much as possible. And there we go. So the last thing what we're going to do is we're going to set these names of these parameters in order for us to obtain this properly. Obviously, I'm going to just teach you something beforehand. When we go within Revit, we can extract all the parameters. And if I go Revit element and I go element, I can get all the parameters. So obviously, if I go parameters, it tells me I can obtain all the parameters from an element sorted by name. If I just take all my elements initially, let's say I'm going to just use these ones, and I run this, you're going to see for every item I'm going to have all the parameters, and one of them is going to be named family and type. And if I go into family and type, you're going to see that my family and type is system panel solid green. So potentially I can take this parameter and I can change it for another one, and in reality it should allow this to change automatically. This is just for us to be able to kind of visualize this. I'm just going to delete this, and we're going to use this as a parameter. So I'm going to create a string, and I'm going to call this family type. So obviously we will be setting up a parameter. And right now I have another node that's called set one of the elements parameters, and it looks for a parameter by name and it assigns it a value. So once again, we do have the parameter name here. And obviously the elements are going to be the initial ones, not the initial ones, but the ones that are filtered. I can now delete this. I don't need it anymore. We just needed to visualize that we do have a parameter for family and type. This is the one that we want to use. So obviously I'm just going to delete this for now, and we're going to set up our values to be specifically this. So now this is a very, very special, script, I would say. Just because we're randomizing this thing, and I don't want to be selecting 482 nodes, 482 elements within the screen, and then having to change this by a pattern. I want to evaluate multiple patterns, and now we're telling it, well, take those elements that we filtered out and look for these parameters that has the name, family, and type, and set these value instead. And we have a shuffled list, and every time I run this script, it's going to create a new shuffled list. So for example, if I run it once, we can kind of see that it's providing new ways, new depths, and new colors. And this is okay. However, I can run this again, and I can run this again, and I can run this again, until I'm satisfied with the colors, and potentially I can add a lot more colors, I can add a lot more depths. There's so many flexibilities, and I could change this to be a lot more of these cubes. Right now I'm working with these panels that are 4 by 2, so 4 feet by 2 feet. However, I could create very little ones instead. So once again, we're not using any panels. I'm just using this for aesthetical purposes. Sometimes you want to be able to create something, and this is the good way to do it. So as a whole, I could provide this script. So what I'm going to do is, I won't necessarily provide the script, but here we go. I'm just going to go through it slowly, one at a time. And I'm going to kind of clean up this a little bit so you can kind of visualize it. And if you ever want to recreate it, well, be creative, try to use this to your advantage. And once again, if I clean up my nodes layout, I'm going to select all of them. You should have a fine script like this. So once again, we're selecting all elements of category, which is curtain panels. We're obtaining the parameters value by name. The name that we're getting is the comments, and the value that we're looking for within those parameters is front. Once we get the list of these, if it contains or not, we're going to filter those results, and these are going to select only the front panels that we have within the building. And I've kind of just selected one. The way I've done it is I've selected one, and then I just selected all of them, and I've added that comment as front. So then we're going to kind of create this family types. We're going to create a list. We're going to count the amount of things. We're going to divide by 3. We're going to cycle it this many times because we have 3 elements. Obviously, if I, the real way that I should have done this was potentially y and, count. This would have been a lot more better way to do it. It would have allowed me to do the same thing. Once again, just if we ever add more item, it would count the list, and it would just input this here. We're gonna cycle this, and obviously 482, we need to reduce one because it's not an even number. We have a decimal number, and once again we're just dropping one, we're shuffling it, and then we're setting the parameters by name using the values that we've just obtained by shuffling these this famous list. So that's that for today. It's not too difficult. Obviously, you got to play around with it a little bit, and once you play around with it, you can get something really nice like this. And you can apply this for curtain walls, you can apply this for feature walls on the interior. You're going to be able to do a lot of things, and you just have to be a little bit creative on how to obtain some of these results. And just Revit out of the box is not going to be able to do some of these things. And obviously you can go to Grasshopper, you could go to different softwares, but then you're interacting with multiple platforms. You have to learn both of them, and you have to learn the node scripting on one, and then you have to learn the node scripting on the second one. So there is a lot of complexity down the line. This being said, try to just do your best possible, and obviously this has a lot of value. You can quickly visualize certain things. You're going to be able to create bunch of feature walls. Usually I use this with wood blocks. I like those feature walls. I see them often all over the place. Just those different depths of wood blocks within a wall, and they kind of create a nice featured wall. It's very great to get started off. And obviously, you can do this in different ways. You could do it manually, but the best way to do it is with a curtain wall. We're just tricking Revit into creating something for us. We're not using this curtain wall for windows. We're just using them to have these panels. They are established in terms of width and heights, and I can kind of control that, which provides me a very flexible method of doing this all across different applications. So that's that for this late night session. We're gonna have more to come, and I'm gonna try to provide tips and tricks and things that people don't necessarily think of. I know out there's a lot of resources on how to create a wall, how to create a window, how to create stairs. I find that this is a little bit repetitive at this stage, and obviously I want to concentrate a little bit more on the things that people don't know. So I'm going to try to just browse through my historical things that I've done, and where I've done things out of the box because I've had certain limitations. So to me, this is where that value is going to be for the more advanced users, and for the people that are just beginning. And believe me, we've all been there. Long time ago, I started off with Revit. It was a lot more difficult. The reason why, it's all these people on YouTube weren't necessarily there to teach us. Not a lot of people used Revit neither, and we had Archicad that was a lot better back then, just because of the families that were they're not technically families, but the equivalency of families were a lot more preloaded within the software, more intuitive. So out of the box, you could get a lot more value with Archicad. And then over time, Revit just became more popular and just more adopted across the region here. So I kind of transitioned into the Revit world. Nevertheless, there's always limitations with Autodesk. This is just that reality, and unfortunately, for the amount of money that people pay, it's just very unfortunate, but it is what it is. We have to deal with it, and sometimes we have to get the job done one way or the other. So these are my tips and tricks and methods of achieving just that. Stay tuned for more, and subscribe and leave your comments below. Thank you very much.